All right, good evening, everyone. We want to welcome you to our town hall, and we want to welcome those that are all of our schools. We are at West Columbus High School, and we appreciate everyone being in attendance here and at each one of our schools, as well as those who are online with us. Welcome to our November town hall. I hope everyone was able to attend the parent academies that occurred at each one of our schools from 6 to 7 and learned a lot from our staff. I'm sure you did. And we appreciate you coming out for that. This evening, this is an opportunity for you to hear a little bit from us about the school system and an opportunity for you to ask us specific questions. We have a few, before I say, I do want to welcome a couple of our board members are here. Ronnie Strickland and Dan Strickland are here with us at West Columbus, and Steve Long is at Nakina. And I'm not sure if the other two board members, Randy Coleman and Worley Edwards, are at a couple of our schools, but welcome to you as well. There are a couple of ways for you to participate in the town hall. If you're watching online, you can place your questions in the Facebook chat. If you're watching on the mobile app, there is a link on the main page of our website for the town hall questions. And then if you're at a school, they will also give you an opportunity to share your questions with them to post in our chat. And if you're here, you will also be able to receive a card where you can post your question for us as well. There's a QR code on the presentation for you to be able to also submit questions. All right. The reason that we do these town halls is that we want to be transparent. We want our stakeholders to know about our school system. We did 2 town halls last year and felt like that was a great way to build our partnership with our community. We want you to have input, but we also want to make sure that you get your questions answered. So tonight we're going to answer some of our questions, but also we may not get to everybody's question, but we do put out an FAQ after the fact with responses to the other questions as well. So I want to move along. Jimmy Price, our Teacher of the Year from Columbus County, is here and wants to share a few words. If you want to come forward.
Good evening. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Jimmy Price. I teach at South Columbus High School, the choral and piano department there, and this is my 20th year in education, and I feel like there's something that's really resonating with me tonight for everybody that is either watching or sitting in a school building somewhere. The difference in urgent versus important. When I did my administrator training, one of the things that we talked about was the difference in the things that are urgent and the things that are important. Well, those things that every day you've got going on in your life that are urgent, that you could be at right now, will one day pass away. But the most important thing, one of the most important things, are your children and their education. And that's what you're taking an active role in tonight through these town hall meetings in Columbus County schools. You know, a citizenry that's ill-informed and unequipped and not active will surely show in the schools, won't it? So if you all are stepping up and finding out these answers from Dr. Meadows and our leadership team and our Board of Education and their candidates, I feel like that's the most important thing. Education is, I really feel like the more local we get, the better we get, because the national and the state, those policies are sometimes very generalized, but when it comes down to West Columbus or South Columbus or Old Dock or, you know, any school that we're in, that's very poignant to what we live every day, isn't it? So 20 years in education has taught me one thing: speak up for your children. Ask questions of this lady and this gentleman and all of these people here, and that's the only way you're going to have a voice. But if you don't come and you don't ask, you certainly won't have a voice. But you cut your own legs out from under you when you don't speak up. And that's what they're doing here tonight. That's what this board and this whole district leadership team is doing. And on behalf of the instructional staff of Columbus County Schools, I feel like we are open as well. Come to our doors. If you have a problem, if you have a question, Come see us. We're the ones that you need to see because we're the ones who have our hands on your children every day and love them and teach them and mold them and sometimes spend more time with them in a day that you may be able to. So at this time, I thank you so much for having me tonight, and I just hope that Columbus County Schools continues to grow, and I thank Dr. Meadows and Dr. Williams and the whole district leadership team and the board for all of their leadership, because I can see a momentum going in Columbus County Schools that is pushing forward and not back. And that's really what we've got to look forward to for a future in Columbus County. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Price. We really appreciate that. And I do want to say he's correct. This is about the community and the parents' voice. The Teachers of the Year have an opportunity for their voice to be heard. I meet with them monthly with all of the Teachers of the Year so that they have an opportunity to share their concerns and to discuss issues. We also have a student advisory within our district, and we meet monthly with our student advisory so that the students have a voice as well. And so I'm going to ask John to come up here and speak on behalf of the student advisory. John Fulton, he's going to come and share from the student advisory.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Fulton. I am a senior at West Columbus High School and a 2-year representative of the Superintendent Student Advisory Council. I would like to acknowledge Columbus County Schools officials and administration and all the distinguished guests present. I also would like to thank Dr. Meadows for the honorable opportunity to briefly address this body. The purpose of the Superintendent Student Advisory Council is to give a platform and voice to the students of Columbus County Schools directly to the superintendent. The Advisory Council's interval meetings with the superintendent consisted of student body leaders presenting and expressing the interests, concerns, and needs of the student body at large. As a student leader, I feel that the conferences with the superintendent have been enlightening, encouraging, and an authentic listening ear for the student body of Columbus County Schools. I have enjoyed my time as a student body representative, and the experience has immensely enhanced my personal and leadership growth. Thank you for your time and attention. Please have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate that, and I do appreciate the voice of the students. We have 8 students from each one of our high schools that comes and meets every month with me, and they share their concerns. John, along with all the rest of them, have a voice, and they are willing to and able to share their opinions at each one of those meetings, and I do appreciate it. So thank you for being here. The district strategic plan, back in 2021, we started our district strategic plan, we developed it, and we continue to review that plan and look to find ways to revise. So at the end of this last school year, and right now we're in the process of revising it, we will take a revised strategic plan to the board on Monday night. You can go to the QR code in the presentation or go to our website and see how the plan has been revised. The focus of the strategic plan is in these 5 areas: the health and wellness of our students and staff, an inclusive learning environment, student empowerment, community, school, and district engagement, and student engagement and academic performance. And we've made a few revisions to the plan, and I would love for you to go and take a look at the plan and give any feedback that you would like to about the revisions that have been made or revisions that may need to be made. All right, next I'd like to hear for you all to hear from one of our instructional coaches, and that's Casey Neely. She's going to talk about one of our curriculum initiatives.
You guys would make me the first short person to talk. So luckily I was fortunate enough to serve on the student engagement and academic performance part of the strategic plan. And so with that, one of our goals was that we wanted 100% of our teachers by 2025 to be using effective blended learning strategies to enhance our student engagement in our instruction. So with that being said, luckily, one of the positives that came from the pandemic is that our county now is a 1-to-1 county, which which means that every student has a device. So with that, we are helping our teachers become trained in blended learning. We've partnered with NCDPI and Rethink Education to help with this. Blended learning is a framework. It kind of goes against the sit and get teaching method, and so it's a framework that provides opportunities for students to have autonomy, and they're learning at their own pace and in their own place. So there's different things that we have been rolling out. There are 4 main models to blended learning, but the 2 that we have focused on heavily in the past 2 years have been station rotations and playlists. So with station rotations, the teacher has the opportunity to address several different skills at one time versus just standing in front of the classroom and presenting one standard or one skill. So there are multiple different rounds of things going on at the same time during station rotations. And the teacher has the opportunity to pull a group to their back table and address one-on-one issues with students, or she has the opportunity to float around and check for understanding. So we have found that station rotations have been very beneficial. Our teachers have been jammed up at pushing those out. We also are concentrating heavily on playlists, and playlists are simply that. It's an opportunity for teachers to modify instruction based on independent student needs. So my playlist may look different from Dr. Meadows' playlist according to what we need the most. And so those have been very beneficial as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Neely. Appreciate that. Another part of our strategic plan is our communications, the engagement of the community. And so Kelly Jones, who's our Director of Communications, is going to share some information about that.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for coming tonight or being online. I want to tell you about the Columbus County Schools mobile app. We have 3,000 downloads so far, so if you haven't downloaded it yet, you got to download it. Join all the fun and information that's on the app itself. The best way to do it is just go to the Columbus County Schools website, and there's a link on the right-hand side that will take you to a place where you can download either for Android or for Apple App Store. And some of the things that you can get on the app is, and this is probably the most important thing, is you can get immediate notifications from schools. Regardless of phone, text, any information you have there at the school, we want that to be accurate, but you can get immediate notifications from the school and from the district. As a matter of fact, one of the first places we send notifications that are very important is through the app. So encourage everybody to go there, and of course school menus, which is probably the most important one, is on there. Started a new one today. You can also get sports schedules, scores, any information, live board meetings are on here. We have a TV channel that's on here as well. So lots of really important information and lots of things that you can use to help your students excel. So please download the app and let us know what you think. And if you see something that you'd like to see on the app that is not on the app, let me know, and I can promise you we can get it on there. We've had a lot of people help us improve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. All right, a part of our initiative in our strategic plan around inclusive learning environments, we added a position to our district this year, is our Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Opportunity Coordinator, LaToya Green, and she's going to come up and speak to an opportunity that's coming up to increase our diversity within our workforce.
I like that. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome everyone in person and everyone online. As Dr. Meadows stated, my name is LaToya Green. I am the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Opportunity Coordinator. So currently, I think there's a shortage nationwide of teachers. So what I decided to come up with was an opportunity and career fair for our district. We will have the first one at East Columbus. Hopefully in the future, maybe in the spring, we'll go out to maybe Tabor City and then the West Columbus School. The purpose of the opportunity and career fair is to grow our community as educators. We feel like there is a disconnect between the community and the schools, and the goal is to try to bridge that gap so that we have more involvement in our education process. So individuals, if you have a GED, high school diploma, associate's degree, or bachelor's degree, come out and see us on November the 19th at East Columbus High School from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, and I promise we have an opportunity for you here in our district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Green. We are working really hard to grow our own. We know that we want people who are from the community, will stay in this community and be a part of our school system, and that's what Ms. Green is working on, trying to find ways to help people to build into the positions that we have available. Our next presenter will be Dr. Heather Piggott. She's our Director of Student Support Services, and she's going to talk about some of the services that exist within our district that you may not be aware of.
And again, good evening and welcome. We thank you so very much for having the opportunity to spend some time with us. And a big part of, okay, we have to adjust it. I'm one of the medium-sized folks. We wanted to take the opportunity to first start by saying thank you. Thank each of you as parents for entrusting your students with us. Student services support is exactly what it means. We are the individuals to support the process along with you, the parents and guardians and all those significant people in our children's and students' lives that can make a difference and see them be successful adults. So with that said, I wanted to give an opportunity to kind of share from the department that covers from our school counselors, our school nurses, our alternative learning program interventionist, behavior support interventionist, social workers, and many other people are behind the scenes behavior support folk that support our students. I think that right now we've got a lot of emerging issues that are going on, and one of which is our vaping issue. We don't have all the answers, but together, and I want to stress the key word, together as a collaborative partnership, we can make a difference. So with that, I've provided in the link for you and for those that will be able to see this later on, some opportunities where there is help available. Our vaping is an issue. It is an addiction. It is a problem. We acknowledge it, and we have worked very hard with our local partners collaboratively, not just specifically to the schools, but also accessing and tapping resources for the county as well. So with that, we have some information for you from the North Carolina Department of Human Services, and also some resources through our substance abuse. We also have some things for our For Hope program, which helps with our disasters. We've had a lot of natural disasters here in our county, for resources to help our homelessness and outreach ministries. Also our partners such as our community-based individuals, our churches, what we do without you, our volunteers. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So please, as you move through the process and also as you look into the presentation, take an opportunity to reach out, look at the information that's been provided to you. It is an ultimate resource, and if there's anything ever that we can do, we are here to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Piggott. We appreciate that. And there are a lot of resources that are provided and available, partnerships that we have within the community to provide for students and for staff. We know there's a lot that has occurred over the last couple of years, and that there are a lot of social and emotional needs of our students and staff, parents, community members. And so there are resources that are out there and available for everyone, and those are available. And Dr. Piggott will answer questions about that at any point to be able to help provide those services. So I want to thank everyone for being here. That was just a quick bit of information about some services and some programs within our district that tie to our strategic plan. We didn't want to spend a lot of time on that part of the presentation because we wanted to open it up for an opportunity for people to ask questions. So we're going to, in this room, take around some note cards and some paper or some pencils, and you can write your questions there. If you're online with Facebook, you can put things into the chat. If you're at a school, please submit your question to your person at your designated site, and they will post those questions in the chat. We did also have a form online prior to a week before this for people to submit questions, so we can begin with those questions or some of those questions while we wait for some others to come in either online or from the room here. So, okay, let's take 3 minutes just so that you have a chance to put your question out there, and then we will come back and start with our first question. 3 minutes. And I'm timing myself because I like to be on time. Do what? He should play the Jeopardy song. Next time we'll have the Jeopardy song playing. And as we answer the questions, I may not be the person to answer the question, so I will call on others to come to the microphone to answer the question if need be. So. Yep, everybody's circulating around, passing in their questions. Okay. Dr. Cartret is going to read our question, and then we will respond.
Okay, first question. Why, after we were told that students would not be on the bus longer than an hour when Guideway was closed, are students on the bus routinely for 1.5 hours? Also, why are there so many issues with late buses?
Okay. So, when we closed Guideway, we did speak to that we would not have routes longer than an hour and a half was what we had indicated. That's really when we talk about bus routes, we talk about 90 minutes is how long we would prefer for none of them to be longer than that. I looked after seeing that question today. We do have a couple of buses that run about 100 minutes, so we are looking to see if there's a way to adjust routes so that they would be under 90 minutes. We're such a large county that it is hard sometimes to keep the routes under an hour in particular, but 90 minutes. Bus driver shortage is the other reason why we're having some difficulty. We can't add another bus if we don't have a driver to add on to drive the bus, and so to shorten those routes. So if somebody's out there and wants to drive a bus, let us know, because we have vacancies that we can put people in. At the same time, I know that when we have somebody that's sick or calls in sick and is not able to drive, trying to find a substitute is sometimes challenging, and that also causes difficulties for our bus routes. That's usually the reasons why we're having difficulty or why we have an issue with the timing on the bus is just because of the availability of drivers.
Okay. With the national and local racial and social stressors we have faced in our community, specifically with our law enforcement leaders, what steps are being taken to safeguard our children from such rhetoric?
Well, I actually had a meeting with all of our administrators just last week talking about how we needed to try to make sure that within our schools we don't have those conversations going on, and if they are, that we're having discussions with students about the appropriateness or inappropriate comments that may be made. When I spoke with our student advisory as well, I asked the student advisory if they were hearing a lot of discussion about the community tension, and the students said in school they really were not hearing it. Where they're hearing it is in the community and on social media. But we are trying really hard within our buildings to keep students focused on what they need to be focused on, trying to keep positive relationships between students and between staff, and make sure that schools are a safe place. Unfortunately, when stuff happens in the community, sometimes it flows over into schools, but our administrators are being very vigilant about trying to make sure that that does not happen and we don't have issues at the school.
Is the school system requiring all kids to get the COVID vaccine?
No, we don't require a vaccine of anyone, not a student or a staff member. That's an easy one, thank you.
As far as programs within the school, like band and FFA, what steps can we take to add more technical programs?
So we are continuously looking to try to find other ways to add additional technical programs. They're very costly, I will say, to add the more career and technical education programs, or CTE programs they're called, like auto mechanics and carpentry and welding and things like that. They're very expensive for the equipment. So we have actually partnered with the college. We have a really good relationship with Southeastern Community College to try to increase the number of programs. We are doing that with, the college just added HVAC. They have a mobile unit that teaches HVAC, and they are moving that from one campus to another at different times. So this semester it's at South. Next semester it'll be at one or two of our other high schools. I'm not sure which ones, but it is moving to be able to provide that instruction in HVAC. We also are having college staff that are coming onto our campuses to teach programs to see if we have enough student interest to add another program. For example, early childhood and medical billing are being taught at East to see if there's an interest in the medical field or the early childhood program to add those programs to that campus. We've added a fire academy for West to see if there's interest for that program here. So we're trying to use that partnership with the college to see if we have the interest from students so that we would then justify adding that program and that cost to the school system, and that we'd have enough students to keep that program and sustain that program going forward. So we're continuing to look for opportunities to add programs, and part of that is we do surveys with students. Students need to tell us what programs they want. And we actually talked about this at Student Advisory the other day, about if we have the programs, what kind of programs should we be offering? Because they asked a question about, and I'm trying to remember which class they asked about. It was a medical course, health sciences at East. And at the time we had it at East, but there were only about 6 students that were signing up for it, which is not enough for us to be able to justify keeping the program there. So we need to have more students involved with a program in order to be able to sustain it. So that we use that information to try to add other programs and determine what the needs are.
Why do some schools have a longer school day than all other schools in the district?
So I actually, and I think that question asked specifically about a school in particular, and I actually met with our K-8 schools the other day because I realized that they are not all the same, and there is not the same amount of instruction happening at each one of our schools. And so we met in our principal PLC, and they were all asked to bring up their schedule and look at it and determine whether or not they were meeting the requirement, and are asked to adjust that so that their day is the same. Now, one school in particular, the staff has a duty-free lunch. And if you have a duty-free lunch, the expectation is you're not on the clock at that point. It's duty-free. So your day may be longer, but it's because you have time off in the middle of the day that you don't have responsibilities at that point. Where other schools, maybe the teachers or the staff is having to cover, really the teachers are having to cover lunch at that time, and it's not duty-free. So it really depends. Part of that is, it depends on that situation. But every school is expected to have 1,025 hours of instruction over the course of the year. And that is a state requirement because we don't go to school 185 days. And it's either 185 days or 1,025 hours of instruction. And every school is expected to do that. That means basically they need to have about 6 hours a day of instruction. And instruction does not include lunch, does not include recess, does not include transition times between classes, but otherwise the rest of it would be included. Intervention periods, PE, any of that would be included in the instructional time.
We have been learning about the technology our students are using in school. What is being done to address the needs of students who do not perform well with online testing or technology in general?
Yeah, unfortunately, the online testing, there's not a lot of choice in that. The state has moved to online testing, and you know, that is just part of what we have to deal with. So if we don't give kids the experiences, though, during the school year, when they get to the end of the year and they take a test online and they haven't used the device all year, that can be difficult for them to take that assessment at the end of the year. So we try really hard to model what is going to have to happen at the end of the year with that particular device. The only time an exception can be made is if a student has a true medical need. For example, they may, maybe they have to answer orally and somebody has to mark their response because they can't use their hands or something like that. They have an IEP that says through a meeting, through medical documentation, that they can't use a written test. But otherwise, the state requires us to do online testing. And at this time, there is no other option for that. But I do recognize there are some students that aren't quite as tech savvy as maybe others, and so we continue to try to work with kids on a regular basis. It's why it's important that students use their device normally during the day in different settings, not just to play video games at home or something like that, but to actually use it in a learning environment so that they're used to using that device when it comes time to taking an assessment. Most of our assessments at school are online. We do have some staff who give a paper pencil. Sometimes that could put kids at a disadvantage if they're not using that device on a regular basis. So we try to encourage and ask our staff to make sure that they're having students use that technology.
Why doesn't Columbus County Schools have a workshop for students on bullying?
I'm going to let Dr. Piggott answer that question because I think she'll tell you that we do. So come on forward.
Okay, so actually we do, and thank you. And what that entails is we have actually individual situations where it's applicable, because it's not a cookie cutter situation. And with our bullying, we like to be very pointed and focused to the issues at hand. So a lot of our counselors actually provide those resources within the classroom individually, also incorporate our school resource officer team. We have our mental health-based, school-based services that are a part of that, and also our Department of Juvenile Justice. They address those services and supports not only for the issue, but investigation. We are educators, and I want to make that very clear, first and foremost. And we educate. We do not always know the ins and outs of every detail. We are not true investigators, and that is why we have resources and partnerships for those types of things. There is a protocol in place, and to eliminate, because we understand sometimes when there is an issue at hand with your child, there's a misnomer that the school is a little biased, or they're not really going to investigate it. The rules that are set for what the category and definition of bullying is not given by us, but by law enforcement. And although sometimes we can agree with things and things that may be very streamlined and very simple, there are a lot of gray areas in between. So we rely on those resources and the experience of our officers. We are not, nor do we want to put kids in a system, so that's why we partner and we have collaborations and MOUs with area partners to provide that resource and support. So again, in recap, bullying information and services and discussions, be it as a whole group or individual and small group, are conducted within the classroom sometimes they're pulled outside in seminars conducted from our counselors, school social workers, our partners, school-based services for individual and group sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Piggott.
Please provide an update on the timeline and grants or other funding available to build the new school for Acme Delco Elementary School and Hallsboro Artesia Elementary School.
Okay, so the needs-based grant, we've submitted that grant twice, and when we did the consolidation, we had indicated that the plans by the board are to build another school on the eastern end to consolidate Acme Delco and Hallsboro. We have submitted a grant twice now to the state to try to get funding for that school. It is the first time we applied, year before this last one, it was about $40 million. And it's already gone up. The cost of it is about $50 million. The projection would be about $50 million. And so the state will give $40 million for a middle school, and our intent would be for that to be a pre-K-8 school. So we're going to continue to apply and hope that we will get the needs-based grant. Right now, once we finish the two schools that were currently under construction, the West Columbus School and the Tabor City School, we will have a loan, a sizable loan on those two schools. And so we don't really want to add more loan to the district to have to pay or to the county to have to pay, and would prefer, obviously, for the state to help us with that by providing that needs-based grant. So we will continue to apply and hope that next year or the following year that we will receive that funding and be able to build that school on the eastern end. But that's our intent. We have been looking at property, trying to find a location, but have not settled on one at this time.
Okay, please address when there will be more diversity in the sports at East Columbus Junior Senior High School in regards to the middle and high school.
Dr. Williams? Mr. Athletics?
I'm not completely sure about the reference to this question as far as the amount. Yeah, I assume it means different types of sports. Our school, high school in particular, is governed by the North Carolina High School Athletic Association, and there are obviously some sports that are offered at other schools across the state that we do not participate in Columbus County at any of our high schools. I do feel like we do offer a great cross-section of competitive athletics in our high schools. We have a great program, I feel like, there. And at South and East, and it extends down into our middle schools as well, because I've always been a strong proponent of the feeder programs, and I feel like our middle school programs do offer. As far as I assume diversity means more variety. We talked about wrestling today in some of our schools, so. And things, and we do offer a lot of, we offer golf and tennis and bowling. One of the very few districts in the state that participates in bowling, even though that is not a North Carolina High School Athletic Association sanctioned sport. We're always open to increased offerings, and I don't want to linger, but. We will entertain that. If someone contacts me directly and they have a specific need out there, we'll certainly look at that and give that some thought.
Thank you.
What type of resources does the county provide for students who drop out of high school?
Well, us in particular, the school system, we try to encourage them to stay in school, and we try to work with them even by flexing a day, doing online, maybe having a shortened day. We try a variety of things to keep them enrolled. Dr. Piggott and Matt Edwards and our social workers work very closely with students and families to try to encourage and figure out what needs to happen for that student to stay in school and not drop out. Ultimately, we don't want any student to drop out because we believe, and I would think most people believe, that a high school diploma gives every child more of an advantage later in life than if they do drop out and don't have a high school diploma. Now, the community college does have a GED program. They can do an adult high school diploma program. But again, that they won't necessarily get the same supports that they would get in a regular traditional high school. And so being able, if we can find a plan to put together for that student to stay in school, it is much easier for them to be able to obtain that diploma at a traditional high school or early college than it would be if they went to Southeastern to get their high school diploma. So I think really what we offer is really individualized work with that student and their family, trying to find ways to keep them in school, whatever way we can. I mean, we want to try to work with the family the best we can. Even if a student just takes one class and that's all they can take and they go to work, we're going to try to figure out a way to keep them in school, keep them connected, to try to get them through high school and get a diploma.
What is the job of the Parent Advisory Committee?
So this is, each school has had for, I don't know how long, a long time, there's a board policy that each school has a parent advisory committee. And board members appoint people to those parent advisory committees at each one of the individual schools in collaboration with the principal. We asked this year, which we started this year, for each school to give us 3 of those parents to sit on a district-wide parent advisory council. That parent advisory is going to meet with me, Dr. Williams, Mr. Jones was at the last meeting, as well as some of our directors and coordinators will come as well at different times. But the point of it is really for parents to be advisory members. We want to hear from them. I can give you an example. At the last parent advisory meeting, and we will meet monthly, the last one we met, we talked about when there is a threat against a school, which we had the week before that parent advisory meeting. We felt like the situation was handled that evening before, and law enforcement was involved. Law enforcement went to the homes of the students. The students were not going to be on campus the next morning. Law enforcement would have a larger presence on the campus the next morning. We had people at the metal detectors checking every student that came in, even though we felt like the threat had been handled really the night before. We did not send out a message to the parents. And what happened was the next couple of days, the story about the incident became that there was a gun on campus, that there was all kinds of things that had occurred, which none of it was true. It's what social media does all the time, which is put stuff out there that's really not right. And so we asked the parent advisory, what do you think we should do? Because our concern is if we put the message out there that parents won't send their kids to school, even though the threat has been addressed the night before, we have an increased presence of law enforcement on campus. The campus is probably safer than it would ever be at any other time because of an increased presence, more, the metal detectors being used more thoroughly. I mean, everything, a heightened sense of need at that point. But we are concerned that parents wouldn't send their kids to school if we told them the night before. But the parent advisory said, we think you should be transparent. We think you should notify us and let us decide for ourselves. So in all actuality, that happened. We had the meeting on Monday night, I think it was. On Tuesday night, we had a threat, and we felt like it was handled, but at that point, we said we need to notify parents. That's what they asked for us to do. So we sent a message out to the parents, and we explained as much as we can, explained about the situation. There had been a threat, and that law enforcement was involved. They were taking care of the situation, but there would be an increased presence on campus, increased presence at the metal detectors to ensure the safety of students. And unfortunately, the next day, we had 50% of the students who weren't at school. And that concerns me. My hope is that as people see that we are transparent about it, that they will send their kids to school knowing that we are being very upfront about this. We are putting every precaution in place. It's the threats we don't know about that are of concern. So when we're notifying people about the threats that exist, your kids are safer than they would be really any other time going to Walmart. So, not that I want to say anything bad about Walmart, but just in general. So, so that's part of the role of the parent advisory, is we want to hear from the parents. We want them to help us with how do we need to handle things in the best possible way. And we want to be open. We want to hear what's happening, what their concerns are, and what do they suggest we do. Now, are we always going to be able to do what a parent says that we should? Maybe not, because there are laws that we do have to follow. But we're here, we want parents to have a voice, just like we ask teachers to have a voice, just like we ask the students to have a voice. We also want the parents to have a voice.
When will the kids move into the new West Columbus Schools building?
I'm going to let Dr. Williams handle that question.
Man, I could talk about this all night. I'm very excited. Hopefully, briefly to answer the question real quick, we're looking at a January 2nd whenever we return from the holiday. Original date was supposed to be sometime like right now. I want everyone to keep in mind that the contract for the school construction runs through February. So, and also keep in mind that it is in the best interest of the contractor to finish that school as quick as possible, because every day it's costing them a lot of money. So they're really motivated to finish the school. We're really motivated to unite our students on one campus. I think our motivation is stronger than theirs, to be honest with you, because we want to see our students together on one campus, and that's gonna happen very soon. The main you hear supply lines, but there's two things that's holding us up right now. One thing is a dialer. When the fire alarm goes off, there is a system that dials local agencies, dials 911, dials, and it goes from there. Long wait to get that part in. Next thing is a communicator. Communicate now, in case of a fire in the school building or in a main building, there's not a buzzer that goes off. There is actually a voice that comes on there, fire detected in a certain region or area of the school. Best up-to-date technology there is out there now. Those two things have really held us up. And we've got over $750,000 of furniture sitting out in a warehouse because our fire marshal simply will not let us move furniture in that building unless those two things are operational. We can't do it. So we've had to push them back to the end of the end of this month, November. We're in November now. So that, then when they deliver furniture, it takes them 2 weeks to install. So you just added 2 weeks to your time. So it's just that is the main thing. Those two pieces of technology, and our bleachers are getting installed at the end of this month. We're waiting on some very nice playground equipment. It won't be here till January, but that's outside anyway. We're not worried about that. But go back. Right now, our target date is the 1st of January, and let's hope that we don't have to move it again. We're holding on. Trust me, we are. Thank you. Good question.
Thank you, Dr. Williams.
Are there avenues in place for minorities to advance as administrators?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a shortage of minorities in certified positions, which would be teachers, counselors, assistant principals, principals. There's a shortage. So we are continuing to grow our own. That's part of what Ms. Green has been focused on with her opportunity fair, with her recruitment efforts, is that we are trying to encourage people to come into the district and build from whatever position they enter. But we are continuing to recruit. We continue to try to look for people to fill the positions that we have that are vacant. We want people in our district, and we want a certified population, a certified staff that looks like our student body. But we need people to apply. We have vacancies right now, teaching vacancies, that if we had minority candidates to apply and be hired, we could build them to become administrators. So there are opportunities for people to join our district and build to become administrators. Don't have a vacancy right now in a principal position, but you never know when there might be a vacancy, or an assistant principal position. But we do right now have teacher vacancies that we could fill with minority candidates, and then they could build into become administrators. So absolutely, there are opportunities for that.
What additional support will you provide for historically low-performing schools?
So we have, over the last couple of years, added additional positions. So we have added interventionists, we have added additional tutors. We provide services. We have instructional coaches at our district level that go out to our schools and work with staff. We continue to try to find ways. There have been some additional programs because unfortunately quite often in some of our low-performing schools, the students need some extra resources. So we have added some resilience programs into a couple of our low-performing schools. We continue to make sure that we have a counselor in each of those schools. We've added an additional social worker to be able to help to make sure the students are getting those supports. So we've tried to add additional resources to our low-performing schools. And, it is a work in progress. And we do have to continue to build the knowledge and the skills of our certified staff, all of our staff, so that they can better assist students each day.
Is it true that new lines are being drawn for where students attend schools? And if so, when will that be known to the public since new construction is taking place?
I've not heard of any such. Nope, we've not had any discussion about any new lines being drawn. That must have come off of social media. But no, we've not discussed that at all.
Is there a way that every school can have a full-time music teacher?
Oh gosh, Kelly Jones would be in heaven if that happened, and I wish that we could. But unfortunately, we get an allotment from the state based on the number of students that we have. And so when we allot positions to each school, we use a formula as well based on the number of students in that school. We have tried very hard to reduce the amount, the number of staff that are having to go between one school and another. And that was part of the justification in terms of consolidation. And we really have reduced a lot of that. There are only a few places where we actually do share staff. There are a couple of incidences in terms of music where like a band person may be at one school and have to go to another school because it's middle school band, and so they don't teach K-5, they only teach middle school, and so there's not enough for a whole day of middle school band with only 3 grades, so they go to another school and teach that for the other part of the day. But, or at high school, if they're a band director, maybe they go to the middle school and teach a band class. That's part of it, is that there's not, still some of our schools are small, and in terms of student population, so you can't have enough classes for them to be, for the staff member to be full-time at that school. But you can't hire somebody part-time in every school. There just aren't people out there to do that. So that means they have to be shared between a couple of schools.
Why are the K-2 report cards so confusing?
Well, the K-2 report cards are are based on standards. So on a K-2 report card, for those of you that have not seen one in a while or may not have seen one, it will say specifically like the student knows numbers 1 through 10, or they know the letters, a particular set of letters, or they can read a particular type and know particular parts of a story. So it gives a specific standard that a student should know, and then it tells whether or not they met that standard, which really gives parents more information, but this report card is very long. It's 2 pages long because it divides out all of those standards and doesn't give them just 1 grade for reading. Because really, to be quite honest, what does for a kindergartner, if you see a B on a report card for reading, what does that tell you that they know about how to read? It doesn't tell you really anything. So the standards-based report card tells you more about it. Now, Miss Neely wants to share something else with you because this is her thing. So come on up here.
Yes, it is my thing. So as of last week, because we had some concerns about that as well, so 2 of the other coaches and I got together and we have made a parent-friendly report card guide. And so we can release those. We just gave them to the principals to give to the parents if they felt like they wanted to. But we can make those public as well if that's something that we think would help. But basically, it'll list the standard like Dr. Meadows is talking about, and then in parentheses in blue font, it will give you a little synopsis of what that standard means and a breakdown of what that looks like when the student is performing at that standard.
Thank you. Now that's service. You asked the question right now and you already have an answer. So hopefully that parent resource guide will help parents to better understand the report card and help them to be able to read it. If they need assistance, if the parent needs assistance with the report card, please reach out to your school, to your principal, your teacher, your child's teacher, so that they can help you to better understand that report card. But the actual standards-based report card for K2 gives you more information about what your child knows or doesn't know than the report card for the rest of our grades, because it only gives you a letter grade about that particular subject area.
Do the demotions of employees benefit anyone other than the person who replaces them, and what guidelines does the school board follow?
Does the demotion?
Demotions.
Okay, if someone is truly demoted, they would lose pay. And we haven't had any demotions in our district, so I'm not sure what that question is asking. But there has not been a demotion of anybody, because a legal definition of demotion is that the person's pay is cut.
Okay. Why doesn't Columbus County Schools offer after-school tutoring services for students?
So some schools do offer after-school tutoring. I think if a parent is interested in after-school tutoring, if they will reach out to the principal or to the child's teacher, they would be able to provide some tutoring. We have some community partnerships as well that provide tutoring in some of our schools. I know West Columbus High School is getting ready to start some additional tutoring after school. A lot of times, though, especially in our K-8 schools, students are involved in an intervention period where they get assistance, individual assistance during that intervention period. Sometimes it's difficult for students to stay after school for tutoring because of transportation, so we try to provide that intervention during the school day for students.
With the county receiving millions from ESSER, PRC7, and others from ARPA and COVID funds, why does the board not provide a transparent budget? With the lack of transparency, how does the public know where the funds are going? And why would Columbus County Schools have an exception in being transparent? Why are funding budgets not available in Columbus County?
I'm not sure, if somebody, whoever's asking that question, would give me a call, I can show them exactly where the budget is. It's on our website. We have at every one of our board meetings shared about the budget. We present the budget. When the ESSER money first came, and every year we have submitted a budget that says specifically how those funds are being spent. So I believe it's been more transparent in the last couple of years than in many years that we tell you exactly what it's being spent on. ESSER money has been used on replacing HVAC in our schools. It's been to make sure that we have a counselor in every one of our schools. It's been to make sure we have 4 social workers. It's been used for the PPE when we were first in COVID, all of the protective gear, the technology. So we spend about $1 million a year on technology. So every student has a Chromebook, every staff member has received a new laptop, interactive panels are being added to every single classroom. We have an activity bus purchased every single year. We have, if I could remember it all, I would tell you exactly what it is, but the budget is online for people to see exactly where those ESSER dollars are being spent. It's not my money, so I'm not hiding it from anybody. It's not the board's money, so they're not hiding it. It is out there for people to see what's in the budget. It's very transparent. If whoever's question that is, please let me know, and I will make sure that you see where the budget is.
That was actually my question. Is there any way that since he has his computer update, he can show us now on the website where it's at?
Well, I don't know that he will be able to show you right now, but I can at the end of the meeting. Okay? All right?
Why are parents not aware of the Making Proud Choices curriculum?
The parents have the opportunity to come and look at that at any point. We, 2 years ago, I think it was, reviewed the curriculum again, and the board approved to keep it in place. But any parent, the letter goes home for those students who are involved in that course at the beginning of the course. They have the right to come and view the curriculum. They just would have to come to the school and take a look at it. But it is available for them to review and decide whether or not their child should opt out of, whether they want to opt their child out of that curriculum. It's a sex education curriculum. And so it is, policy allows for a parent to say, I don't want my child to participate in that, and we find an alternate location for them and alternate assignments for them while that is taking place. Oh, it's 8 o'clock, so let's do one more question.
Okay. Why aren't there any black principals in the Columbus County school system?
So personnel decisions are being made. Just as I said a few minutes ago, we are always looking for new candidates to come to the district. We can build our own from teachers to assistant principals to principals. But we're going to try to find the best possible candidates every time we hire, and we're going to place people where we think they can be most successful for students in each one of those decisions that we make. So, with that being said, let me go to the end. We answered our questions. I appreciate you coming out this evening. We will post an FAQ on our website with the questions and answers from tonight, along with other questions that we may not have been able to get to. We appreciate your participation in the town hall. We appreciate all of those at the individual schools and online. And we will have another town hall in the spring, and we will let you know about that date. Thanks again.